Hello, hello, and it's time for another episode of the Techie and the Cowboy. My name is Alastair Hunt. They call me the Techie.
And I'm T.W. Lawrence. They call me the Cowboy.
All right, awesome. And so today we'll talk about our subject because I like this one, TW. Talk a little bit about what we're going to be discussing on this episode.
This one is called Lay the Guilt Trip on T.W. because you've pointed out all the little things that I do that are no-nos. I've stopped of the four or five that you pointed out, I've stopped doing one.
Stop doing one. Well, tell them the official title besides
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
the
called Little Things That You Think Don't Matter.
little things that you think don't matter. And the reason why he said that is we were talking through this again, and Dina was like, well, I'm guilty of that one. Oh, I'm guilty of that one. And these are just examples, right? The
Yeah,
main premise
yeah,
of
the
it is
low-hanging fruit, actually.
low hanging fruit. The main premise of it is how everything it is that we do. I'm a believer that everything it is that we do matters. Some people say karma. Some people say what goes around comes around. There's lots of different titles for it. But we're going to talk about that right after we kick this amazing intro. Let's go.
And now, a few minutes with two of my friends who will soon be yours, the Techie and the Cowboy.
All right, we're back. So start it off, TW. Talk about the premise of this and why it is that you said that you felt, so guilty whenever it is that we were talking about this subject.
Well, it's an easy one because I like Mexican food, Tex-Mex specifically. Grew up in San Antonio, used to having it between that and barbecue. Those are the two major food groups, and none of the others matter, except for whether you accept tea as being sweet or unsweet. Apparently, there's a big argument about that, even in Texas. Anyway, however it is. But there are several places that I go to. For example, this morning, I stopped at a bagel place. It's a franchise. And as I was, I got some stuff to go because I was meeting up with another guy, and I was getting napkins and that kind of thing. And they had them. They still had them. Those little packets of hot sauce. I'm not sure what they sell in that store that requires hot sauce, but up until today, I'd help myself to two or three, take them home. I'd squeeze them into a little plastic squeeze bottle, and I'd have some extra hot sauce to put on my food at home. Was I stealing that? Yes. In fact, I was. It was obviously cutting into the margins of that store. But the way they do stuff around there, they wouldn't notice the difference. Why did they put it out? Why didn't you have to ask for it like you do at, say, Chick-fil-A, type of thing? So it's one of those things like, okay, if I think about how many times have you done this over the years that you've been coming here, you must have taken what, a case of hot sauce over your lifetime? Is that stealing? Yes. If somebody caught you putting that in the back of your truck, would they say he's shoplifting? Yes, they
We
would.
don't
So
think
it's
about
kind
it
of
because it's such small, minute things. I mean, it's funny because my mother in law, God rest her soul, she was the queen of collecting the packets from everywhere she went, and her whole justification for it was, I paid for this stuff, so I'm going to take it. Right? The truth is, they probably estimated in their business model a person taking one packet, maybe two packet to go along with their meal. But they did not estimate you taking a handful and putting it in your purse and putting it in a Ziploc baggie so you can use it in lieu of buying it from the grocery store later on. Somebody has to pay for that somewhere down the line. But then again, we grumble whenever it is that they have to raise costs or whatever else, or raise the prices. All of this stuff factors in. And I say this coming from the standpoint of a small business owner who's owned an actual chain where people came in and consumed stuff, right? Little things like the price of straws and everything else like that we don't factor in, that also factors in for these business people. And they're wondering, why is my hot sauce going down so much? Or why are my straws going away so
because
quickly?
TW keeps on
Running through
coming
the
through
prices
here
fast.
twice a week. Yeah.
It's the person who took a handful because they said, I love
Okay,
big
okay,
straws.
okay. But on the flip side of it, I have seen examples. I saw one the other day and I thought, I wasn't here soon enough to really know whether he did or not. But we have QT gas stations. They're fast, kind of a fast food place and gas station. Okay. So you can go in there and it is actually the cheapest iced tea that you can get anywhere around where I live. And they give you the big, what they call the extra large, the big whopper thing for $1.37. Ain't no thing. Okay. But if you bring the cup back, you can get a refill for $1.21. And that's an even bigger deal. So I would bring the cup back and I'd say, they start to ring it up and I'd say, oh, that's a refill. All right. To make it easier to establish my honesty, I took some labels from my little label maker and typed in refill, put it on the cup, refill, put it on the lid, so that when I set it down there, the people would think, wow, you either went to a lot of trouble a few minutes ago to smush this stuff out on your cup, or in fact, you did do a refill. But the other day I was coming in there and I was getting the ice and, I was looking for a lid and stuff. This guy had been up at the cashiers, which is in the middle of the store. And as he came out, he stopped, got a cup, got a couple things of ice cubes, filled it with whatever soft drink it was, and walked out. And I thought, I hope you paid for that, because otherwise you just ripped off the store for the cost of that cup. I didn't make a thing about it because he could indeed have paid when he paid for his gas and that kind of stuff. Don't know. Didn't see it going in. But it's one of those things I wondered, how does the cashier know what is a refill and what is not? It just depends on the honesty of the people, and they probably have that built into their pricing model.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of some of the things you have an honor system when it comes to that kind of stuff, and you factor out how many people were actually going to buy the deal because you have it versus how many people were actually not going to be honest, and usually it's negligible, and you kind of work that in. But it's kind of bigger than that. We're talking from a cost versus value type of thing perspective. But I remember hearing a speaker a long time ago. And this is what shifted it for me because look, I'm not judging anybody. I'm the same one that was take ketchup packets and everything else like that. But something shifted for me because I heard a speaker that says that if you think of God being omnipresent, omnipotent, all the way, all around at all time, right? And he sees everything, then everything matters, right? So when you do something that you think nobody else will know or nobody else will get away with or anything else like that, is it really pleasing to God, right? Not only that, somebody else is going to have to do a little bit of extra because of your ability to, the example that they used was you take the shopping cart, you load your stuff up, you go out to your car, you unload it. Do you put it back in the shopping cart receptacle bins? Do you take it back up to the front, or do you just put it in front of the car? At some point, somebody, whether it's somebody like me, because if I see it, I'll grab it, or the person who it is that's having to be out there in Texas 105-degree weather is going to have to pick that up for you. So at some point, somebody's going to have to.
They're paying labor hours for people to collect carts. That should be easy because they should all be in that, as you say, that lane where they collect them all. Makes it easier to do because they got the little motorized.
But even if I'm close enough to the door that I'm closer to that lane thing, I'll take it back up to the door and put it back in there. Or I'll ask the person walking up, hey, do you need to be able to use this? And one time I had a lady who it is that was having a hard time walking, and I asked her, and she's like, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And it ended up helping it. But the whole thing is that everything that you do comes around.
Right. And so I tend to do the same thing. If I'm headed in and they've just finished with their cart and they're looking to see how close it is, I'll say, can I take that for you? Ain't no thing for me. I was needing a cart when I get in there anyway. But the thing that just really annoys me is when you get out there and you say, oh, you just put this in front of your car. 10 steps later, right across there is where you should have taken it. But no, you're way too important for that. So it's kind of like.
And if the wind catches it and it damages somebody's car, or you see them roll out into the street or roll out into the parking lot, people just don't stop and think about the little things. But the truth is the little things matter. Just following that same grocery analogy, he used the example of if you pick up something in the store and you don't want it anymore, and you just put it on the shelf in a whole different department because you don't feel like you need to be able to take it back. At some point, somebody's going to have to do that. The person restocking the shelves.
Oh, or whatever you can't just set it down as long as you don't.
But his whole point was these are little things that we don't think about that we do. Maybe we saw our parents do. Maybe we've always done. But if you start thinking about that and you start looking at all the little things that you do that put you 1 degree off here and there, then how you do one thing is how you do everything is my favorite saying. I say this with my coaches and I say it with my clients all the time. And I definitely say it with my son. How you do one thing is how you do everything. When you start noticing that you're off on a whole bunch of little things, you'll notice that life is off. It's just the little 1 degree nudge. And next thing you know, you're 5 or 10 degrees off. But if a plane is 5 or 10 degrees off of its intended destination when it starts in New York coming to Texas, it's going to end up in a whole different city than what it's supposed to be. Because it seems like negligible at the very beginning when it takes off, but over time, it ends up getting you way off path.
Well, I can tell you something that I used to do growing up until I was in my 20s, sort of my early to mid 20s. Then I got stopped, and I'll tell you why in a second. But now I just consistently do it, and I don't care, even if some people look at you funny or think, this is not the political climate for you to be doing that. And that was because I grew up in Texas, under all the rules of being a gentleman, as they raised us to be. So I held the door open for ladies. And I was doing that when I was in grad school. And yes, I would say at least half of the people in the school were Jewish. And of that, the Jewish girls that were there were the snottiest bunch of people I'd ever been around. And I held the door open for this one, and she looked at me and she said, "Why are you holding the door?" And I said, "It's what I've always done, way I was raised." She goes, "Oh." And as she stepped inside, she very purposefully stepped on my foot and pivoted. I said, "Okay, yes, I realize that we're in the age of bra burning and women's lib, and you can open your own doggone doors from now on, because I ain't going to, why suffer that humiliation?" Well, nowadays, don't care. I'm old school, Neanderthal. Anyway, so at the gym, if I come in, I always look around. Is there anybody close that's going to be there in another 5-10 seconds? I'll stand there and hold it. And I did the other day, and this middle-aged, slightly heavy-set black lady came in. She goes, "Oh, you holding that door for me?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She goes, "I really didn't expect people to do that anymore. Thank you so very much." And she went in. And I said, "Ain't no thing for me. I'm just standing here holding the door open. It puts off that heavy workout I'm going to be doing, so you're doing me a favor." But no, it's just a nice thing to do, and I don't care who you are. I hold it open for men, women, don't care, anybody, particularly if they got packages or that kind of stuff. Do it at the post office too, when they come in with it, all their stuff, and you hold it up and they've got a baby stroller or whatever. It's just people, and it just kind of really does surprise me how many people do not expect it. It's kind of like,
yeah, because people are so in their own world, especially with the invention of these devices, right? So we're so here that we don't even realize what's going on outside of our bubble. Plus, if you've never seen it, if you've never been taught that, that's like, Southern gentlemanly charm or just polite respect that our parents taught us to be able to do. I was always taught, my dad was always taught, I don't care if you have to sit there and hold it for, 3 minutes, you let people come in until the next person grabs the door and then you go on ahead. But on the same note, I was walking and there was a younger guy behind me. He's walking literally with his phone, like not even looking, opens up the door, and then there's an elderly lady behind him, and he lets go of the door and almost takes this lady out. To which I ran up there, grabbed the door for her, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "Did you not see her? Oh, no. Come hold this door." And he came and he held the door, right? You just don't know what he looked very embarrassed once he realized that he almost took out a lady with the walker, you know what I mean? But he was so in his own world and he's so out of the element of, I need to hold the door and look on what's going on around me. He barely even looked up. He probably walked the whole route to where he was going because he knew it by memory and didn't look up from his phone once and had no clue what was going on around him. So it's just this perception
that gets into the biblical thing about if we accept Christ and we are believers, then we should strive to act in a certain way. And one of the ways that we act is to be a servant, which means, love your neighbor as yourself, which means everybody else in the world except for me. That's what I do first. And so to practice that, you would do things like, as you were saying, if you're into your phone and that kind of stuff, it's kind of like, oh, well, I only do that on Sundays. But anyway, there is a biblical thing for it, and it's just a polite thing to do.
But it starts with being more aware of what it is that's happening. We do so many things on automatic out of survival, out of compartmentalizing, out of just trying to do stuff. Once it is that you kind of wake up, open up your eyes and look around, you'll find lots of opportunities to be able to serve and just to be kind to others. There's two books actually that I love to be able to recommend to people. It's called, one's The Compound Effect and one's The Slight Edge. Both of them have about the same premise, is that the little things that we do all matter. And the little things that we do all stack up over time to be able to create big results. So if you want a change in your life, you start with the little things. And then as it is that you start to do the little things, that compound effect says that they will compound to be able to have big, huge results. The slight edge says same thing. Little bitty things that you do over time will have big, massive impacts in your life, your business, in your marriage. So sometimes it just starts with a small thing, like paying attention to opening the door for the people that are behind you, paying attention to, making sure you take the shopping cart back or putting the stuff back. And then you start finding all these opportunities in life, little things that you were doing that you had no idea were affecting other people, that you start doing, smiling at everybody who it is that has eye contact with you. That was another one that I get when I teach this from stage, or whenever I'm teaching this whole concept in a section of my speaking. I say, hey, if somebody makes eye contact with you, my grandma actually taught me this. If somebody makes eye contact with you, make sure it is that you smile. Simple thing. Doesn't take any effort from you, doesn't cost any money besides the fact that you smile. And what you'll find is that the compound effect is that it will actually boost your mood, because every time it is that you smile, science says that you send a rush of endorphins that actually make you happier, even if you're not in a good mood every time that you smile. So if you just get in the habit of smiling anytime somebody creates contact with you, or my dad always said, always say hello, always speak to somebody if it is that they see you, because you don't know if you'll need them. And the next moment, something could go down and that person might need you, because it is that you made that connection, that instant connection. They might think twice about you where they wouldn't otherwise, right? So little lessons that if you're just paying attention, if you're being aware, I think can make a big difference. Yeah.
Right. And the examples that we've given up to date are stuff that is real easy. You don't lose any skin over doing any of the stuff we talked about. But there are also little things you do that you should do them, but they can cost you.
Yeah.
An example from my personal history is when I was in the Air Force, and we were in what they call field training. It's like basic training. And we had one guy in there. It was interesting. He was very smart. You could tell it. He was not real big. He probably came up to about my eyebrows and stuff. But he knew absolutely everything in the world. He had an opinion on everything in the world, and he would tell you how you should do what you were doing the next step, because that was the way to do it. And after a while, people just would avoid him because it's kind of like, oh, I just can't take Royce, one more day of listening to him do something. And he was going on and on and on and on about something. And I pulled him aside. I said, Roy, I realize, as you have said, this is the first time you've ever lived in a barracks, which meant you are sleeping in a room with people that are not your relatives. And that's kind of new and strange to you. Anyway, I said, Roy, your opinions about everything, I said, that puts everybody off. And that's why people avoid you. You should just be quiet, listen, learn from them things that you don't know. He was astounded. Well, when we went through the process of our evaluations from the regular Air Force officers that were in charge of the place, so I got in there and I said, we understand that you had a little contretemps with Roy. I thought, oh, geez. The guy ratted me out for me being square with him, about doing that. He said that you, Cadet Lawrence, this was the first time he'd ever had anybody speak to him that way. You were very firm. You were very fair. He thought about it, and your evaluations were honest, and he really appreciated what you said. So we're going to give you an uptick in your evaluation for doing that. And I wasn't even thinking about the evaluation. I just wanted him to shut up. No, to actually, be part of the team. We're trying to build a team here, and you're standing off, and everybody's avoiding you. So if the mountain lions come, we're going to sick them on you, type of thing. So, it did work out well for me. I got a good grade and promotion, the whole thing. So
And I think that's where I mean by everything comes around. Like your little one moment, really, self-interest a little bit, wanting him to be quiet, but also educating him on comes back around and ends up working out in your favor. And I think that's kind of how it is that it shows up. Okay, so the third part of it is just kindness, right? It's just choosing to be kind to people or choosing to be better and kinder to your average everyday human. It's funny because we have here in my little small city where I live in, we have a neighborhood page. And we have a lot of what we call trolls of the internet on there, right? It's like they just go through the pages looking for opportunities to be sarcastic or mean or whatever else. And it's funny because, we're featuring an article. And one of the ways I ended the article is that kindness is a choice. You have a choice whether it is that you want to be kind or whether you just want to be a jerk. So next time you have that choice, choose kindness. And if everybody does that, it's just an amazing experience for everybody else. It's the same thing when you're going through day-to-day life. How you do that one thing is how you do everything. When you start choosing kindness, you start looking for ways to be nice. You start implementing the smiling at people who it is that make eye contact. And I think in turn, then your life is going to get better too.
sure. It basically, as you said, it comes down to selflessness, where you think of other people before you think of yourself. And if you want to be selfish about it, actually being kind and being selfless is lazy. If you want to be mean and say bad things about people and stuff, you have to use some energy to do that. To pay a compliment to somebody and that kind of stuff, by comparison, is easy. And that's why Jesus encouraged you to do that, because don't waste your energy on the negative stuff, because you can get further, twice as much stuff done by just loving your neighbor and showing it. So it's kind of like, and besides, there is that there must be some chemical thing you get, endorphins or whatever, when you do it, because you just said, okay, I just held the door open, I just took a card, I just said something nice to someone, and I feel better about it than if I'm angry at somebody. I'm always angry. I got the rage. Forget it. Just be kind to people.
And I remember talking to a guy he was just, always edgy and always being a jerk and always mad all the time and everything else like that. And I asked him a simple question. I was like, because we had built enough of a rapport. And he's like, I'm just an angry person. I'm just an angry guy. That's just who it is that I am. And to which I responded, it's not who you are, right? You just choose to be that way. But aren't you tired? Isn't that tiring? Having to be fired up all the time? That has to be exhausting. And he kind of stopped and he thought about it. And he's like, actually, it kind of is, right? I was like, don't you want your kids to know you as that person they're happy to get home, not versus, oh my gosh, dad's home and what's he going to get on me about now, right? You have the ability to be able to choose to do that. Now, of course, it's not going to happen overnight. And as if y'all are followers of the show, TW and I are both Stephen ministers, which means that we're trained to be able to walk alongside people while they're going through grief, right? And one of the things that we know as Stephen ministers is that hurt people hurt people. When people are going through grief, when they're going through hard times, sometimes taking it out on other people is their only outlet, which I kind of had this feeling that this is what this guy was going through. He had a lot of stuff going on in life, and his being, angry and upset and lashing out at people was just his way of kind of blowing off some steam or relieving pressure. And to that, when we got into that, as we, kind of kept on having more conversations about this over time, I said, well, why don't you find another outlet versus taking out on the people that you love, the people that you work with, the people that are around you? Why don't you find another outlet? Go to the gym, throw up some weights. They're not going to complain if it is that you're throwing the weights too hard, well, unless you're throwing them, literally physically throwing them. But if you're pushing extra heavy weight, if you're jogging extra fast, if it is that you're finding an outlet where it is that you can, blow off some of that energy and some of that steam that's healthy for you, that's actually going to benefit you, it's going to be a whole lot better than you taking that out on your family, your spouse, your friends, your coworkers. And watch, people will start to know the change. And he did over time start to be able, he actually found weightlifting as an outlet. And it was just amazing the shift whenever he was more aware of he had no clue what he was doing. It was just an automatic way of thinking, right?
Right. But there's also one of the things we haven't really spoken about is there are some people that when they see that you are that way, that is your default position, that is your natural position to do, they will try and take advantage of it
Yeah.
and stuff. But it's kind of like in some of the stories I've written where, the guy says, well, you have to turn the other cheek. Yes. If you read the scripture, he said, you got to turn the other cheek once. Try that again, dude. It's on. It's just kind of like you just say, very politely, I'm telling you, quit being that way. Because if nothing else, I will avoid you, and that's it. But I'm not going to be taking advantage of you. I will be nice to you. I would like for you to be nice to me in turn. If not, then that's between you and God Almighty.
Well, one of the things we always try and do is we try and change the other person, right? But we can't change the other person, but what we can change is how it is that we choose to react, whether it is that we choose to be around, and how we choose to be able to respond to the other person. That's 100% in our control. So, like you said, in situations like that, you remove yourself from the situation, or you choose not to deal with that person, or maybe it's a hostile work environment, then you choose how it is that you're going to react to that. You protect your energy, you protect their ability to be able to shift what it is that's going on in your world. And once it is that you do that, those kind of bully people tend to go away. They only like the reaction. They thrive off of the fact that they can get you to be able to fire back. They thrive off the fact that they can get you to be able to whimper and cower. But if it is that you stop doing that and you show that it doesn't even affect you, they're going to go find another target because they're not getting what it is that they expect to be able to get out of it, right? So again, you can control what it is that you do. You can't change or control anybody else, but you can control how it is that you react to the situation. Summarize it up.
So now what that means is you're going to have to start being nice to me.
Oh. you didn't notice that sometimes I'll be like, yeah, TW, I'm just going to let that one go, whatever, right? Just let it go. I'm not going to affect my energy. I love it. So much fun, right? Right. All right, so TW, sum up just give us the summary, like the three things that we kind of talked about and, how it is that people can implement, because we love to leave you guys with implementation, right? So
the thing that we have to remember is that kindness is really a natural thing to do. It requires being aware of who is around you. It requires you to understand that being selfless is actually biblically grounded, and that is, we kick around the terms karma and that kind of stuff, but as you do good things come back to you in turn.
And we also encourage you to be aware. Like, be aware of the little things. Be aware. Are you one of the people who it is that take a little bit of the extra stuff at the restaurants, leave the cart or whatever else? Just switch it. Just switch one thing at a time. Just to make a choice. Say, I'm going to be the one to take the cart back up to the door. And what you'll find is it doesn't take a lot of effort on your side, but the rewards are absolutely huge.
Exactly.
With that being said, this is the end of this episode. My name is Alastair Hunt. They call me the Techie.
And this is T.W. Lawrence. They call me the Cowboy.
And the reason why we do this is to really be able to affect as many people as possible. So if you feel like you got value out of this, please like, subscribe, and share with somebody who it is that you think might get value too. But more importantly, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys about what you thought about this episode. If you have any additional insights, or even if it is that you disagree with us, let us know, because we want to hear your perspective, right? And we're out, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
That's it for this episode. Join us again next time for The Techie and the Cowboy. Hit us up on our website, thetechieandthecowboy.com. Let us know what y'all think.